Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, House of Spielberg. We're in our second episode of Spielberg, and today we have entered the 1980s. Well, the late 1980s, because we're doing a film that not a lot of people talk about, and I think even less people have seen, and that is 1989's Always, starring Richard Dreyfus, Holly Hunter, Brad Johnson, and the one and only John Goodman. And I have seen this film. I've seen it lots of times, but my beautiful and wonderful co-stars, or I should say co-hosts, have not. And with me, as always, is Darren Moser. Darren, how you doing?
Doing great, as always. No, I know. Had to get it out before. Yeah, no. Sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
Did you get that out of your system?
I did. Okay. No more always jokes. I promise. No, I don't promise that, because there will be lots of always jokes. But yes, first time watching this, I'm really looking forward to discussing it. Had zero idea. I mean, come on, guys, the title's Always. It's like the most generic, basic word of the English language. It doesn't go anywhere from there. But yes, it was fun to watch, and I did like the way it went. It made me think a lot of Planes, Fire, and Rescue, if you've seen that, which is a great Pixar film. It was pretty much the same story. No.
Fun side note. I thought my kid loves the Cars movies, and so I was like, oh, Planes is finally on Disney Plus. Let's watch this one. After about 45 minutes, she's like, let's watch something else. I think.
Okay. I will recommend Planes, Fire, and Rescue. It's a much better, much more engaging story. It's basically the same character, and then they go to become a fire plane, and they're in Yosemite, and it's a better story than the race around the world. So give that a shot. It comes Dr. Sci-Fi. Recommend it. It's not sci-fi, but it.
All right. And also with us, as you've heard chuckling all throughout this, is John Mills. John, how are you doing?
I have been carried here on a stretcher so that the ashes that we're filming around do not smudge my immaculate costume.
I see somebody has read up on the trivia of Always.
For once, I actually did research on something, but it's because of something I couldn't confirm, but I will put out there, and I'm sure we'll talk about in the course of the discussion.
And I think I know what you're going to talk about. But you guys will have to continue to listen to find out. But if you want to listen to some of our other episodes, what you need to do is go to thenerdparty.com/houselights, and you can find all of our backlogged episodes. We've got episodes about Fincher, Nolan, Coppola, Anderson. Wes Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
We got so many great directors on here, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going because this is so much fun. Please write us and let us know what you think of the show or what directors you would like us to talk about next. You can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Nerd Party. You can find us on Twitter at Join Nerd Party. And we'd love to hear from you guys. And also, we have so many other shows that you'll enjoy. We got Star Trek shows, Star Wars shows, Babylon 5, Doctor Who, movies, TV, everything that you could possibly imagine. New content coming at you every single day of the week. So, Darren, you do nothing about this film. Nothing. So you didn't even know the plot. So I can't even ask you.
I didn't know it was a Spielberg film until we pulled up a list of Spielberg films to decide what we were going to pick for our 1980s choice. I was like, Always. What is? I didn't know who was in it. I didn't realize that was Richard Dreyfus for a bit, because he's got the aviators on and he's got a mustache and and he's got a lot on his head. And I'm like, is that Richard Dreyfus? And then it's like, John Goodman is John Goodman from 20 feet away. So that was easy to see. But yeah, I had zero clue going into this. I was even like, is this John Williams even? What is even going on here? I had no idea that this was based off of an old movie. I had no idea that he dies and then is an angel ghost spirit of aviation. I had no idea any of that was coming. I had no idea.
So I was watching this with my wife, who had never seen it before, and just like you guys, didn't know a single thing about it. All that I told her that it was Audrey Hepburn's last movie, and so she's watching it, and we're well into that first act, and the scene where Dorinda gets the dress, and it's like it's sunset. They're having some beers, and then like all the firefighters are washing their hands and everything like that. She's like, "Is this a dream? Are they dead?" It's just like, what is going on? This can't be real. Like whatever this scene is, it can't be real life.
The washing the hands almost makes you think of Snow White, where all the dwarves hurry to wash their hands to have the food because she won't let them eat. It's kind of very similar. But yeah, all the firefighters are all grudged up, and she's like, nobody's dancing with me touching this dress without washing their hands.
Now, John, were you like Darren? Did you have zero information on this? Like, did you know that this movie was in the stratosphere? Like what?
I remember seeing ads for it back in 89. I remember the poster. For some reason, the poster's always been in my brain, not because I think it's a dynamic poster, but probably because I just never really cared for the poster, I guess.
Oh my God. No, it's a terrible poster. Like it's so lazy.
It's so for, that's always been stored in my brain, but I never really knew what it was about until moments before I watched it, when I was trying to, talk to one of my older children. I said, "Hey, I've never seen this before. Why don't we sit down and watch it? What's it about?" I don't know. I honestly don't know. And so I pulled it up, and then I somewhere in the description, it says she has to rethink her life after one last bad decision or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, he's going to die." Okay. And then I went into it. So that I went in as cold as I possibly could have.
Wait, no, you chose to spoil yourself with the description moments before watching it.
No. I had pulled it up while I was talking to the child, and the description was right there. And I'm not in every circumstance, but in some circumstances, an extremely fast reader. And so it flashed up, and in like the 2 seconds,
fast literacy.
No. It comes from I have to do a fair amount of copy editing, and so you have to be able to like just scan like a paragraph super fast. And
they're always your excuses, John.
It just blasted right there in front of my eyes, and there you go. It was so I didn't know, but it didn't say he died. It just said she had to deal with her life or whatever, and I knew immediately. But even if I hadn't read that, the moment where he's standing on top of the plane and she can't hear him, and he's going, "I love you."
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
Please, he's done. He's finished.
It's like movie note.
Yeah,
the main character yells, "I love you," and the love interest doesn't hear him while he's about to fly off into danger. Right? I'm sorry, bud, you're not coming back.
It's like right before you get into an action scene. It's just like, "Oh man, I can't wait to retire and spend time with my grandkids."
Well, and he did talk about being retired. Didn't he literally pick? He's like, "I'm going to move and do a new job."
Right. He was about to get a new job.
She even said like it's his punch out day or something like that. And I'm like, dude, don't get in the plane. It's not going to go well.
And of course, she has bad dreams beforehand. The music is swelling while he's being flooded with blue light as he's opening up the fridge, giving this ghostly appearance. Yeah.
Well, and I did see in reading someone else's note on it that she predicts what happens where she's talking, when she's angry at him and she's talking about, you're risking your lives for what, a tree? And she's like, I could understand it if you were risking your life for a person, but not for, the forest. And it's like, but that's what happens it's not him saving the forest fire, it's him saving John Goodman, and that's exactly what happens. And I think it makes it more tragic because it's his friend, it's his buddy, and I was relieved when he pulled out of that dive, and then it's like, oh no, sorry, just kidding, you're dead.
Yeah, I'll at least give Spielberg credit that I kept waiting for it to happen. He said, "I love you." They were talking about the retirement. I'm like, okay. And then he pulled out, and I was like, Oh, well, okay. Maybe this isn't exactly boom.
Boom!
Okay. There you go.
Now, okay, John, I want to know. Let's just go ahead and cut to the chase a little bit. So
Mhm.
you didn't know anything about it. You
Yeah.
watched the film.
Correct.
Credits roll.
Yes.
What's your feeling?
What you mean? What is my impression coming right out of it, fresh out of the gate?
Impression right out of the gate, was it you were just like, oh my God, that was 2 hours wasted? Or you're like, oh, I really enjoyed that. Or was it confusing? Was it a good time? Was it just okay? Like, what were you feeling knowing nothing about it beforehand, before you spoiled yourself with your speed reading?
Yes.
And then watching the movie where you're just like, oh, okay, well, that happened. What were you thinking when the credits rolled?
I was thinking that this, in a sense, made a lot of sense to watch after Sugarland Express, because my impression of it is that we have a director here who isn't quite there yet for this material. That there are a lot of elements that work, that click, but there's a lot where you can tell that Spielberg's lifetime of epic blockbuster action have dulled some of his some of the more down to earth sensibilities that you see in like Jaws, right? And it comes back later in his career as he starts dealing with more intensely personal struggles and emotional topics and stuff like that. So what I see is somebody who's not quite. I see Spielberg not really able to reclaim what made Jaws work so well in terms of the human relationships yet, or even Close Encounters, but a desire to get there. And so, there's some interesting stuff, but, coming straight out of it, I was like, he's showing that he wants where he wants to go, but he spent so long making mega blockbusters that those particular skills are a little rusty.
It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like Spielberg, this is one of Spielberg's passion projects, where he wanted, like he's always wanted to do this film, because this is a remake of a movie called A Guy Named Joe with Spencer Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of Spielberg's favorite movies. This is the movie, A Guy Named Joe, that made him want to become a film director. Mm-hmm. And when he was on the set of Jaws with Richard Dreyfus, they found out that it was each other's favorite movie, or one of their favorite movies. And they kept like spitballing lines back and forth, and found out that they had a genuine love for it. And it wasn't until Spielberg could write his own ticket that he was able to kind of make this movie, get this made. And so it's interesting that you put it that way, where you're just like, oh, well, he's kind of maybe lost touch with his character roots by doing big blockbusters, but the only way that he could have made this piece is by doing those big blockbusters and getting that clout. I just think that's a really fascinating way to put it, and kind of that catch-22, if you will. Darren, same question to you. Like, what were you feeling when the credits rolled?
I really enjoyed it. It's a fantasy, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, it's like he's dead, and then but it worked as far as, okay, I like the concept of, hey, when you're a pilot and you have that little thought in the back of your head about what to do, and it helps save your life. Like, that's actually the spirit of another pilot passing it on. I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. And I mean, we all could see a mile away that, he's like, oh, my girl, you're still my girl. It's like, no, you're not. We know where this is going. It's going to go to the young hunk and all of that, who didn't get the first dance. But no, I enjoyed the story. I mean, it is a remake, so I don't know if it wasn't a remake, if maybe there would have been some difference in the story or the pacing or the choices. Like, I mean, they don't even change the main character names at all from the original, so you have very 30s, 40s sounding names. But
yeah, like, who's named Dorinda?
That's the one that sticks out the most. But it's like Betty, it's Dorinda, it's Doris, But no, I enjoyed it, and I felt, I was just looking it up, and I mean, Spielberg directed 8 movies between Sugarland Express and this one. And a lot of those are, like you said, many blockbusters, but it's not a bad thing to, it's Spielberg. He could do what he wants. He can write his own ticket. And if he wants to do a fantasy movie, a boy girl firefighting, it's really weird. It is weird, the overall plot and how they did translate it from a war movie. And you can see the bones of that in place. But I liked it. I felt, and it was fun. Always fun seeing John Goodman and Richard Dreyfus, who just knock it out of the park, I think, in their performance. Will I watch it again? Maybe. I might put it on again just to kind of absorb a little more past that what's going on first viewing.
Well, one thing I like that you mentioned Goodman, because Goodman really is, he's terrific in this. And what I love about Goodman is when he is in the right supporting role and he feels loose and free, he really brings this energy that makes you love him. Like, you fall in love with John Goodman in this movie because he's such a good-hearted, loving guy that he's not a perfect person or anything like that, but he's such a loving guy that you could understand why he's everybody's best friend in this movie, why everybody loves him. And I love when he gets the opportunity to do that. But I do want to get to that question that's been burning me up, because we're talking about the blockbusters and the stuff. Tristan, I want to see if you truly can guess, because you said earlier when we first started recording that the trivia point that I was trying to settle with myself, that you knew which one it was. What do you think I would be going for here?
I thought you were going to be talking about who Hap was originally written for.
No, I was not.
Okay.
Although
right.
I did find that out along my journeys. The house that Dorinda lives in, that Marge Helgenberger's little follow me truck thing crashes into, is that also the exterior of Henry Jones's house in the beginning of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? Because it looks stunningly similar. And I was wondering if they had reused the set or the piece.
I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
I could be wrong, but they built that. It's just a shell. They built it specifically there.
But they could have reused it. I mean, he literally did do Last Crusade as well. Came out in 1989.
I was just wondering from a practical sense, because the first shot I saw, I was watching it alone and I blurted out, "Oh, that's the Jones house." Like, it looked so incredibly similar that it blew my mind. And I started, as soon as the movie was over, I started doing searches. And I just couldn't formulate the thing. I kept looking for set references. I could be wrong. It could just be the fact that they really liked the look of it and it just sort of carried over. But it looked so stunningly similar that it kind of threw me for a loop.
I'd have to do a side-by-side comparison, but I don't think so, because I think the idea of transporting a facade would be much more cumbersome than just building a simplistic one. Maybe
sure.
maybe
Last
they use the same
Crusade's this little
blueprint.
indie film, right? Has no budget whatsoever. I'm sure they just reused it.
Yeah, well,
But that would be good. Now I want to pull it up and try to look at the two of them. I
could be wrong.
White houses, but
right, with the picket fence, even the size of the yard and the path leading up to it, it could just be similar design sensibility. That Spielberg knew what he wanted, and that's just where he was in his head at that time. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Tristan, to find out that Hap was supposed to be originally Sean Connery, that's such an interesting. I can see that though.
Right. I can see it. I can absolutely see it. I can feel just him.
I didn't realize it was Audrey Hepburn until the credits. Because I didn't know. I didn't know that she was going to be in this movie, and it was her last movie. And she, everyone has that, Breakfast at Tiffany's Audrey Hepburn burned into their mind. And, thinking on it, once I knew, it totally fits. But yeah, because I remember seeing that, and Audrey Hepburn in her last film, and I'm like, wait, who was Audrey Hepburn? And I'm trying to think through it, and I'm like, and of course I misremember Hap as Hep. And I'm like, oh, it's Hep, of course. Oh, that's why she's named Hep, because it's Audrey Hepburn.
I've never heard that one before. That's funny. After her first scene, my wife is a huge Audrey Hepburn fan, loves her musicals and everything like that, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. And I turned to her and I said, I was like, this is how I knew who Audrey Hepburn was. And she just kind of looked at me gobsmacked, like, really? Really? I was like, yeah, this was the first thing I ever saw of Audrey Hepburn. And so when I saw Breakfast at Tiffany's for the first time, or any, like, I can't remember which one it was, I was just like, oh yeah, it's the woman from Always.
You can't say that, Tristan. That's a crime against cinema. Audrey Hepburn is not the woman from Always.
I don't know. I think that's.
I mean, you're
that's
not
actually,
wrong, but
no, I think that's really cute. I like that. I mean, the first movie I ever saw, legendary actor Sir Alec Guinness, was Star Wars, and it wasn't until I was much older in life that I saw like little movies like The Bridge on the River Kwai, or The Lady Killers, or Kind Hearts and Coronets and stuff like that, where it was like, oh, this guy had an entire career before he was defined by one role.
You guys heard it here first. John Mills at Kessel Junkie on Twitter compared Always to Star Wars.
That's an interesting way to take that.
You know,
same level.
Harrison Ford, the guy from The Conversation. I mean, we could play this game all day, guys.
Of course we could.
That real hunky guy with the scar on his chin. Yes. So we talked about John Goodman's performance. I echo exactly what John said. Like, you absolutely fall in love with him, and there's so much to love. And I love how he steals the chicken, the chicken from Brad Johnson's plate, and how he dances around just to make Holly Hunter laugh. But my absolute 100% favorite scene of Goodman's is when he made the decision for Dorinda to come with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, you have nothing here. Like,
yeah, like he gets out her suitcase and just starts putting stuff away, and she's just bawling, and it just, like, I love that. I love the raw emotion in this movie. I think that's my favorite part of this movie, is the raw emotional moments. And that, I think, is probably one of my favorite scenes, because it shows true friendship, love, like true devotion, where it's just like, I'm not going to let you throw your life away. I'm not going to let you waste it. You are coming with me. And I love that there was no real argument. Like, she just kind of broke down and realized that she was broken, that she was still grieving. But John Goodman knew what, like Al knew what was best for her. And at no point, I feel like if this movie was made today, they would add some sort of subplot where Al had feelings for Dorinda or something like that. And I'm so glad that there was nothing like that whatsoever. There was pure friendship and pure, I care for you, I love you, in a non-romantic way.
Well, yeah, and he even mentions, he's like, I loved Pete, he was my friend, and to have, a guy then express that, yeah, guys can have those kinds of friendships, those kinds of, connections with other guys. Like, he's been in the trenches or in the clouds, I guess, with this guy, and he misses him too. And I was really glad that he showed up, because again, I have no idea what's going to happen. So there was a part of me that's like, oh, I wonder if Al then took the job. And I was so happy then when we get there and he's sitting there at the desk, and I'm like, okay, yes, we get more of this character, because I don't want him to just be in the first act, in their firefighting days. So I was really glad. And it, like you said, opening him up, because there were some times in the very, very beginning when they're like joking around and they're driving the little Jeep around and they're roughhousing, and it feels very from the hip filmmaking, like kind of just, hey guys, just do your thing and we'll record it. And it works, but that can be risky, because sometimes when you do that, it does not work. And you're like, I cannot see these characters being friends, but that was not the case in this. Like, I could see, you feel it when he watches Pete die. You feel it when he, takes Dorinda to pull her out of her grief. And even and and just the silly jokes, the wiping your face with the grease, and it's a great little role, and it just shows how John Goodman shines in pretty much anything he's put in.
Yes. I do want to say, you mentioned seeing his reaction to Pete dying. I really do think, and it does hold up on the whole, that the way that they managed to make it look like those two really were flying planes, and you had the
effects were really good.
Like I was surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, again, Spielberg has been making blockbusters for, more than a decade by this, 15 years by this point. He knows how to make things look good, and he knows how to make effects work. But just the fact that it's such an easy to screw up set of shots to do those things and to assume. And you can tell, I think that's really where somebody like Spielberg shines through in a movie like this, because he understands that if he doesn't sell those shots, the audience just completely disconnects. They need to believe not that these guys are flying planes. They need to believe that Richard Dreyfus knows how to fly a plane. They need to believe how John Goodman flies a plane. And it's just funny because in today's age, Tom Cruise would just go say, okay, documentary film crew, come on, I'm going to go fight some forest fires and we'll film all of that.
Learning how to fly a plane, so I'm just going to go do it.
Right, exactly. And in the headlines, Tom Cruise personally saves half of Argentina or something like that. And it's like, this is so much easier. This is like the Laurence Olivier thing where it's like, oh, you should try acting. It's so much easier. But it's such, if those shots don't sell, the movie becomes a bit of a joke. And
so,
the
John,
fact that they work so well.
What specifically sold you in those shots? Because I find that really interesting. I'm not disagreeing. I think the outward shots looked very, very good. Like when you saw the external shots. Is that what you're talking about? Because when there was a lot of shots, like this is the first time I've ever watched. There's a little bit of
back screen shotting when they're in the cockpit. But it's pretty good. It's not. I think the footage is slightly overcranked in some of the shots, and maybe that's it. But what's that question? That's a good question, though.
It's the exterior stuff. The inside the cockpit stuff works pretty darn well most of the time. It doesn't really. It's not until the end with Holly Hunter's flight where things start to. The inside the cockpit shots don't work as well as they do earlier in the movie. And I think that's probably because they're nighttime. It's harder to get the lighting to match up and all of those sorts of things. Probably nowadays easier with computers, the usual line and all of that stuff. But just the simple fact that again, this is that more practical way of compositing stuff. The fact that it looks as good as it does is impressive.
Well, I think there's also something to be said on the way, model. Obviously, some of this is models and some of this is, actual planes flying. But the kind of angles that you have to do when you're shooting something real are part of what makes it feel real. And I would think now, if this was made today, you would have this, super helicopter drone kind of footage flying into the valley up to the plane. And that just doesn't feel real because it's like, well, where's the camera? Where's the person? Mm-hmm. And so because it's 89, because it's just models and miniatures and rear projection and a couple real planes, they're not in that playground of we can put any shot we want on these planes, but then you need to sell that shot. And so, I think they hold up pretty well. Like there were a lot of great moments, and I felt like they were in the planes. The planes were flying on the fire the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Darren, I think that's really interesting that you bring that up because I just watched that behind the scenes episode, the making of Mandalorian, and they were talking about the second season and the final episode and everything like that. And one thing that they said that they tried to do is they tried not to do any camera angle that would have been impossible to actually film. And because when they're in the volume, like with the glorified rear projection, they can do whatever they want. And with CGI, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever camera angle they want. But like when they were filming on a boat, And they said, they're like, okay, well, what kind of camera angles do you want to do? And they were thinking like, maybe we could do a jib shot with this. And they're like, how would you get a jib on a boat? And they're like, well, does it matter? And they're like, yeah, like if you can't get a jib in real life, it pulls you out. Exactly. And so I think that's really fascinating that you brought that up, because
and it's so subconscious. Like you don't realize why the shot feels fake, but then you think of like, well, how would this actually, we've seen practical cinema for so long.
Yep. Well, I think actually what it also speaks to is not just being trained on that sort of like visual thing, but what helps sell it is that maybe on that little tiny lizard brain part of your consciousness, you need to feel like maybe you squeezed into the corner. Maybe you were the one sitting there, and as soon as the camera does something that you couldn't conceive of yourself doing, I can conceive of myself hiding in a corner. I can conceive of myself sitting on a wing. Even though I hate flying, I could be like, okay, I could see how I could make this happen, sort of thing. But if I see something where it's as neat as it might be to see, a camera angle from 3/4 hover over a boat in the open ocean, my brain immediately says, yeah, but I can't,
And not to stray too far off topic here, but since we're talking about it, one thing that I can't stand is the opposite of this, where we're in space, we're in a sci-fi film, and we get those documentary zooms. And
I've gotten tired of that. I've gotten really tired of that.
Like, I know that there is not a dude in a spacesuit, like with a film camera adjusting his focus. Come on, stop!
Right.
Like, we're not doing that.
They're trying too hard to sell the documentary style at that point.
I mean, obviously, the first thing that comes as thought in that is Battlestar Galactica.
That's immediately what I was thinking of. But I just showed my kids Star Trek 09.
Okay, yeah. No, I think Battlestar pulls it off because they use it in slight moderation. But I know what you're saying, and I do feel like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I
don't want to write a blank check and saying like, oh, this is for everybody. But I'm not saying that it never works, but I feel like John.
But when you put junk on the lens, you're like, what? It's a completely CGI shot. Like, does this make it feel more real? Maybe not.
All right, so let's get back on track to. I want to talk about Holly Hunter, because I always want to talk about Holly Hunter. I think a great underrated actress. I don't feel like she's hit the stardom that I thought she would have when I was a young person. Like, whenever I saw Holly Hunter,
sure,
I thought she'd be a huge star. I thought she'd be America's sweetheart. And she has given so many great performances in so many great movies, but she's not really that household name. And I think she gives a great performance in this movie, where she's endearing, she's sexy, she's touching, she's funny. She's the whole gambit in this. Like, I lose it every single time I watch this movie when she picks up the box of the dress and all the firefighters come and she's like, she like smacks it down. I lose it. I love that. And so, John, what did you think of? I know that you're a Holly Hunter fan. Like, what did you think of her in this movie? Do you think she was miscast? Do you think she gave the performance? What do you think?
I think she gave the performance, and this is I'm not trying to tip my hand because we talked about first reactions and everything, but I do. I think she gives a great performance. I think Goodman gives a great performance, but staying with Holly Hunter specifically, I think that there is a slight sense of disservice that I felt with her, because she was really good in this role. And I feel like the movie strayed from her for too long. I think that she should have been the thread through the whole thing. And I understand that Dreyfus is the quote unquote main character. He's the protagonist. But I really kind of think she's caught in this unfortunate confluence where the movie can't really decide whether it's an ensemble role whether Dreyfus is the protagonist, whether it's about her life coming back together. And so there are all of these threads, and I think it would have been a much more successful film to be focused on her, so that we felt a surprise after his death, where we suddenly said, oh, it's her story, instead of even picking up with him immediately walking in the woods sort of thing and explaining how time and space are not really going to make sense throughout this movie sort of thing. Not to belabor the point, but I just think that Holly Hunter is who they should have been more focused on and made it her story. And it would have been a neater trick to have us focused on these guys, and then we suddenly find out their story was the prologue to hers. And instead, there's this sort of competition, and I think, honestly, she's the most interesting character in the film. And so I would have preferred to stay with her.
What if they switched the Ted Baker, like Ted Baker is still Ted Baker, but what if they switch the part of the story with Holly Hunter, meaning Dreyfus comes back and he is now her pilot angel. And
right.
So he's already hit with the emotions and he has to watch her fall in love with this pilot. So very similar. Everything kind of plays out the same way, except for he is not attached to Tom Baker or Ted Baker. That could be very interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I think even though I really like this film, I really like it, there's things wrong with it. You know, like there's things that I would change. I think the pacing is a little weird. I think the opening is a little too corny, and even though I really enjoy it, but I really like your idea of making Dorinda the main focus, where that prologue, that first act, is a setup for the story of her becoming, because even in the first act, she's talking about how I could do this. I could do this
Mm-hmm.
within a year if I push myself. You know, like, why didn't we see
that?
That?
He
Like,
dies and she wants to, and then she pursues her dream and goes to the flight school. Or heck, I was surprised she wasn't teaching. I mean, I didn't realize till later that she wasn't actually one of the fire plane people.
Well,
yeah.
She could fly, but
I think there's a serious possibility there too, because then you give Richard Dreyfuss, you could have his realization moment not being, I release you to go fall in love, but I've gotten you someplace where I should have been more encouraging to you in life.
I was holding you back.
And so that's his resolution.
Get rid of Ted Baker. Yeah, get rid of him in that respect. Yeah, I think that was one thing that never really worked. I felt like I saw great chemistry between Richard Dreyfuss, Holly Hunter, and John Goodman. I felt zero chemistry between Ted Baker and Dorinda.
He looks like, whenever like Sylvester Stallone is in a movie, like in a suit and glasses, it just looks so wrong. Like when he's in the glasses, you're like, what? Like it's like Mission Impossible glasses, like something about the late 80s, early 90s. Like they just wanted to put glasses on certain people that shouldn't be wearing glasses. I say this as all of us are wearing glasses, but
well, no. It was definitely a thing in the late 80s. You can even point at same year,
slick hair, glasses, and suspenders. Like everybody had that.
Oh God, the suspenders thing. See, the thing is, I'm older than you guys. The suspenders thing was horrendous. It was terrible. It was a
Wall
thing.
Street.
I hated it. I pleated pants, suspenders, and then those dumbass glasses that were I wore a pair, and they are just terrible. And even in 1989, they make a point to have Michael Keaton put on glasses like that, just to show that Bruce Wayne's a smart guy. And it's like, oh Lord.
Right. I would have been fine. I almost thought it was another person. It's so jarring when he puts the glasses on and you're like, is this the same guy? Okay, sure.
I honestly think that the actor missed somebody missed a great opportunity to show him as a young Tom Berenger, because half the time I'm looking at him when he doesn't have his glasses on, he bears a striking resemblance to Tom Berenger if he were a little bit younger. And it's bizarre, because I just sat there the whole time thinking, when I saw him initially, I was like, I know this isn't Berenger, because this is like after Platoon and Berenger's way too old for this. But man, he looks very similar.
I love the idea. I know that we don't like to rewrite films, but I love the idea of getting rid of the romance subplot. And that's what makes Richard Dreyfuss let go, where he's like passing her on to another man. I love your idea, John. And with Ted, I feel like I love that line where he's like, it's like, oh, he's too much sex appeal. And it was a weird line that she said. I can't even remember what it is, but I remember it being weird, but like he's too sexy or something like that. And John Goodman goes, there'll be plenty of time for the short, ugly guys later.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, just go for it.
So one thing we haven't really talked about is Richard Dreyfuss. So Darren, what did you think of Richard Dreyfuss? Like, do you think he was the appropriate frontman for this movie? Was he miscast? Like, did did he sell being the aviator to you in this motion picture?
Well, once I realized it was him, because it did take a moment, but yeah, I don't necessarily think Richard Dreyfuss is as funny as people. Like, he's not a comedian. He's not a funny guy. Like, he could do funny lines. Jaws, he's got some funny quips and stuff, but it doesn't scream humor to me. So once he was dead and he was actually being introspective, that worked much more for me than like I didn't really buy him as much as the hotshot flyby, I have white hair guy. I did more of the, I'm looking back on my life. And honestly, the bus scene was really good with him. And as he's, trying to just figure things out, that terrible transporter accident that put him halfway in people can't see him and he can, no. But yeah, so overall, I did feel that he worked. He's a big name, definitely going to put some butts in the seats. But also towards the very end, I got a little bit of, there's a big age gap there. And there was or it felt like it between him and Holly Hunter, where I was kind of like, I'm like, oh, was that because it was a remake of this older movie and that's what that was? Or,
well, there's 11 years difference between the two of them.
Maybe it's not as, maybe I'm thinking of like modern Richard Dreyfuss, who's obviously much older, but
no, see,
but compared to Tom Baker, which is like her peer.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in the movie universe, 11 years is nothing. But in real world, 11 years would be like, oh, yeah, that's quite a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that also he's not done any favors by gray hair, because this is speaking as somebody who is bald, right? My brother is 5 years older than me, but everybody thinks I'm the older brother because we see bald and we think, oh, older brother. Plus, I have facial hair and he doesn't, so everybody sees facial hair. So they could have de-aged
him a little bit. Yeah,
they could have given him some, just for men in his hair or something like that. I don't know, or at least dyed the mustache. Who knows?
So, I thought that there was a woeful misuse of Keith David.
Oh,
and
yes, I was just going to talk about Keith David.
But yeah, Keith David is an amazing actor.
Before he was a gargoyle, voice. Before he had wings himself, he was an aviator in Always.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be in the last act, but no, he just got his plane jacked. And poor guy. That voice, I love anytime Keith David is in something.
So before we round third, John, I want to know, what's your least favorite part of this movie? What didn't work for you? What was just like,
Not a list, John, just a thing.
No, you know what? I think probably the movie lost a lot of my buy-in and never got it back from that dancing scene where she's dancing in the white dress and Ted Baker is obviously trying to make a move for her, very obviously trying to make a move for her while she's dancing with her man. And I think probably I emotionally and intellectually at some point, he's just a douchebag for that. And it's one of those things where I think probably that set me against that specific arc from the beginning. And it just really grated on me. I thought it was played poorly. I thought it was staged badly. Up to and including there's even one shot in particular that's supposed to be, it shows him standing there off to left frame while they're still dancing, and you can see that he's like looking at her longingly, and I just disconnected sort of at that point and never really came back in a lot of ways.
Interesting. I never would have guessed that's what turned you off. That's so interesting.
Well, that's just the one that really jumps out, because the thing is, I'm not atypical in this sense. Once you lose a certain piece of, buy-in from me, I think that's true of anybody. Once you hit a certain chord, and it's just like, that's the point where it's like, okay, if you had carried me even 10 minutes deeper into the movie before this happened, probably I'm more invested in it. But that just, it sets it at a deficit that it's trying to make up the whole rest of the time.
Darren, same question.
I know it's not the worst part, but it was an interesting, I almost forgot about it, but the moment where Ted is at that abandoned field, and there's the crazy guy who apparently can hear Richard Dreyfus really well, but selectively repeats him to say almost the opposite thing. And I was almost thinking, like, is this guy going to be on the rest of the movie, and he's just going to be the crazy guy in the back of the plane because he picks up on the reception? I'm like, I'm here for it if that's where we're going. But that's so it was a little, I felt that they had done enough of them hearing, like they'll brush their hair out of their face, or they'll, I felt like they had established what that connection was. And it was kind of a step back in that scene where it's like, why did we need this scene? Was it to make him romantically want to pursue her? I mean, I get, which is kind of what it did, but
I think so. Yeah.
But, and the way we were kind of rewriting it with him being tied to Holly Hunter through the get-go, I think would have been a more persuasive story than what we got. So yeah, it doesn't take me out of the film, but it is a weird turning point between act whatever and act whatever.
I do enjoy the fact that old man who could hear him and selectively repeat him was the crazy neighbor from Home Alone. So I sat there and fixated on that.
The guy Old Man Murphy?
Yeah, the guy with the trash can full of salt that supposedly he dissolved his family.
And he puts them, and he turned into mummies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Close Encounters and Escape from Alcatraz. Christine. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Nah, but to me, he's always going to be the old neighbor from Home Alone. What can I say?
Robert's Blossom, for anybody who's wondering. So for me, probably the scene that worked the least are the ones that was, I hate awkward scenes. Like, I can't stand The Office sometimes because of that secondhand embarrassment. Like, I'll literally hide my face behind my wife because I can't handle awkward stuff in movies or in TV. And so when Ted is talking to Rachel, Marge Helgenberger, like I can't stand that scene because you just feel bad for her.
What are we talking about? What am I here for?
Yeah. There's no redemption for her either. Like, there's no silver medal. There's no consolation prize. It's just, you're the person who pine over Ted and never get him. And you're just a vehicle for him to realize that he wants to go after Holly Hunter. I can't stand that. It's super awkward for me. And my dad always fast forwarded that scene. And so I've seen it only like a handful of times.
I'll say it also acts to set me a little more against Ted, because I don't understand how anybody could be that idiotic or unself-aware not to realize at least halfway through, like, even if he's not picking up the earlier cues, halfway through he's talking, he should at least be intelligent enough to stop and say, she's not accepting this in the way that I think a person, I'm bothering her in some way.
Well, and then later in the house with Holly Hunter, he's like pouring on the charm. So it's not like he doesn't have charm. It's a completely different person. It's like when Bruce Wayne tries to be, it's like, the times we see Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne where he's trying to be bumbly. It's like, but Bruce Wayne isn't bumbly. He's Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's like, who's the third character you're throwing at us?
I don't like Ted. I felt like he was very very awkward in this. And I just, but one side note that the scene where Ted and Dorinda are in the car going to get supplies, and he does that whole John Wayne impression. Apparently what happened is that they did that off camera. Like Holly Hunter and Brad Johnson were having that conversation off camera. Spielberg thought it was so awkward and hilarious that he wrote it into the script.
It feels like that kind of a set, where it's like,
it does.
Oh yeah, this was funny. Let's put it in. And probably should have made it on the cutting room floor, but anyway.
All right. Well, I want to know, John, how many haps are you giving this film?
Okay. I want to say that I was talking about this with my wife. Your wife watches movies with you. My wife listens to me talk about them. And I can say that I said to her, I was really going to be interested to talk about this movie with you because I know that you have an affection for it. And I know that I don't. And I would say that coming out of it, it is like I think I pretty clearly communicated earlier when I was talking about like Spielberg isn't quite there. Like he's gotten rusty at this. And so I wind up coming in and it gets an extra little nudge because I do think John Goodman is just so damn good. And I think Holly Hunter is so damn good. And so wind up at 2.5.
2.5. Oh, come on, man. I was hoping for at least a 3 from you. If you gave me a 3, I would have been said, you know what? Great. That's fine. That's fine. 2.5. No.
2.5 because we didn't even talk about how the score disappointed me either.
I always forget to talk about the score. John Williams.
That's the
God
problem.
love him.
We forget about the score.
Yeah, it's just John Williams is John Williams to me. I mean no disrespect to the man, but there's so many times when I'm just like, yeah, that's a John Williams score. Did he just copy and paste the notes from the previous movie?
I find it stunning because, like most other bipeds born in the last 50 years, I know John Williams' work, and we talked about this during Sugarland Express, how it was like so subtle. We couldn't really believe it was Williams until a certain point. This one I could tell was Williams, and there were certain scenes where I was like, this is just not appropriate for this scene. It is the wrong music.
Darren, what did you think about the music before you give your rating?
Yeah, same kind of thing with Sugarland Express, where it was there. Did I feel like there was no theme? Really, because they chose the theme was going to be their song, or Smoky Eyes, or whatever it was, and
Smoke Gets in Your Eyes.
Gets in your eyes.
It was my grandpop's favorite song.
So that's what I remember that more than any of the music cues. I can't remember a single one. So did it have a Williams-y flair? Yeah. Did he pour all of his effort into Last Crusade during this year? Yeah, but that's okay. I think that's fine.
It was very much fine. I'll do always as well, Steven. All right, Darren, how many exploding Dreyfuses?
Wow. Jeez. No,
dark.
It was, I enjoyed this film. It was a fun film. Do I think our re-edit would probably be better? Yeah. Will I rewatch it a bunch? Probably not as much. So I'm going to give it a 3. Right in the middle. I think it's again interesting. Do I feel like Spielberg's improving? I do. And again, the visual effects were really good. Barring a little bit of rear projection, which I think is just the limitation of the time, it really drew me in, and I felt like we were there. I mean, I think they used footage from other actual firefighters for some shots, and there was not really any moments where I was like, wait, is this real, or what did they do? But I'll give it a solid 3.
As I ruined the surprise last week, I have, and as John said, I have a deep affection for this movie. And I think that's a great way to put it. I have a deep affection for this film. And I think I can't divorce myself of it. It's so hard for me to look at this objectively because I was raised on this film. My parents love this movie. We used to watch it all the time on VHS. And that was actually the thing. is that like this was the first time I ever watched it on Blu-ray. And so the rear projection for me kind of took me out of it because I never noticed it on VHS. Like how bad, in my opinion, how bad the rear projection was. But yeah, I can't, it's so hard for me to say, like, the pacing is weird. The first act is too dreamy. It's too dreamlike. Ted Baker has no chemistry with Holly Hunter. These are all things that are knocked against it. But just the pure joy that I get out of this film from the chemistry between Holly Hunter and John Goodman, between John Goodman and Richard Dreyfus. It's just, I love the script. I love the performances. And while it gets a little weird in the middle act, I do love the powerful, raw emotional moments, like I mentioned with John Goodman and Holly Hunter in her apartment complex. And especially at the end, when Holly Hunter is in the plane and she's trying to save the firefighters, and Richard Dreyfuss is in the plane with her. And it's almost like they're just straight up talking, like they're screaming at each other, where, Holly Hunter's like really just screaming at herself, but it sounds like they're having that conversation where she's just screaming, "It's too hot." And he's like, "I know, baby, but you can do it." Like, man, that tugs at the heartstrings right there, man. That just gets to me. I love that scene. And so to me, this is a 4-star film because of my affection towards it, knowing that it's probably closer to a 3 or 3.5, but I can't not give it a 4-star film.
I'm glad you didn't go full Mutala on it, though.
Give it 5 stars just because I like it.
Exactly.
Brandon, I house you're listening because we love you and we miss you.
Yes.
You made it really easy, Brandon, when I was filling out my list of like, what were the past ratings from Houselights? oh, this column, it's looking really, really similar. But hey, if you like it, you like it.
But no, this is not a perfect film. There's tons of things that I would change. John, I really as I said before, I really love your idea of making Holly Hunter the protagonist. And I think if this was made today, that would have been an easier sell than back in 1989. But yeah, so everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your time. Please let us know what you thought of Always by writing us via email or talking to us over social media. John, where can we find you online?
Look for Kessel Junkie, KESSELJUNKIE, where I give pithy and snarky comments to all sorts of people and events, not just here on the podcast. And speaking of podcasts, you can also find me right here on the network, The Nerd Party, co-hosting a Star Wars show called Aggressive Negotiations with Matthew Rushing, where we like to think we take things down a slightly different road. We're not going to be your typical Walt Disney News Channel, and instead we look at some of the larger picture elements of Star Wars. So check that out if you would. Darren, where can people find you?
They can find me here on the network talking about Star Trek in our City Alpha 3 show, or being a maker in Maker's Method. Or if they want to see my current projects, visit my online store, or see what troops I've done as a stormtrooper, go to drsci-fi.com.
What's your TK number?
888-00-88800.
All right, and you can find me at The Insane Robin on Twitter or Letterboxd. I almost forgot the name. And and write to me about how much you love Always and how Darren and John are absolutely crazy for their low ratings. But thank you so much. And
Heartless monster. I'm a heartless monster.
There you go. Tune in next week where we talk about Amistad, where we enter the 90s. Spielberg of the 90s, Amistad. Now, John, you have seen this, and Darren and I have not. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I've seen it once in the past, and I really, really loved it when I saw it. So I'm very interested to revisit it.
So those who are following along, listen to us and watch Amistad in preparation for next week. Until then, thank you for entering the House of Spielberg.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.